All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash, giving double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom to all the brothers out here laboring in this truth with sincerity. Shalom to the few sisters that watch. It's coming back with another lesson. Saw this article and then just decided to go, dig a little deeper. But it says U.S. and Russian officials draft a plan to end Ukraine war based on capitulation from Kyiv. And if you go into this word capitulation, it means, surrendering, giving up. So it says it is unclear if Trump's administration will back a deal that would mean Kyiv giving up territory and slashing size of military. It says U.S. and Russian officials have quietly drafted a new plan to end the war in Ukraine that will require Kyiv to surrender territory and severely limit the size of military. It was reported on Wednesday as Russian drone and missile strikes killed at least 25 people in Ternopil. And that's Putin ain't playing, man. It says the draft plan, which was reportedly developed by Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, and the Kremlin advisor, Kirill Dmitriev, will force draconian measures on Ukraine that would give Russia unprecedented control over the country's military and political sovereignty. The plan is likely to be viewed as surrender in Kyiv. So, it's taking place, and Russia would have taken that land a long time ago if it weren't for the U.S., supplying them weapons, man. Basically that's it. And let me see. It was saying that this draft of the Russian and Ukraine, Slovakia, the U.S. and Russian peace talk was modeled after Israel and Gaza. But at the same time, while they're coming up with a plan, Israel attacks Gaza again today. So really, basically, they're not in control, man. It's all of the Lord, and let's get that. These people think they can come up with plans and do this and do that, but it's all of the Lord. We'll go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 21. And it says, starting from the top, this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 21 and verse 1. It says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the Lord is in control, man. These people think they're making decisions, but it's simply the Lord controlling them. The Lord is really controlling what's going on. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 11. And we're going to drop down to verse 4. Not Salakia. Let's see. Is it? Verse 14. Salakia. It says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. The second world war has passed, and behold, the third world war is coming quickly. That's what this is saying, man. So no matter how many peace treaties or whatever these people come up with, it's going down. The third world war is going down. You see civil unrest all throughout the earth. They came up with a plan, a ceasefire for Israel and Gaza, and that hadn't worked. The Lord is putting the spirit on Netanyahu to just go ahead and be a savage, man. So, us in this truth, man, we understand this. We understand that, World War III is coming, man. And we're in a time now to where prophecy is taking place at a all time rate, because we're in the end, man. We're at the end. So this is the book of Joel chapter 3. It says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem," and that's where we at. We're at the end. Second Ezra 6 and verse 9. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, man. That's where we at. So, we're about to be freed up out of here, man. It's going down. So it says, verse 2, it says, "I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat," which is Jehoshaphat, the valley of judgment. It says, "And I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land." So the Lord is going to plead with them. The Lord is going to judge them, for what they've done to the children of Israel all throughout history. So no matter what these people do, no matter how many meetings they have, no matter how many handshakes they give, or smiles or whatever, media, press conferences, it don't matter. The Lord is putting a spirit upon these people to go to war. So let's drop down to verse 9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, and let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong." So these weaker nations, for a couple centuries now, America has been a powerhouse, all throughout history, man, based off the military power that they have. All the rest of these nations have slowly, caught up to the U.S. But now we're here, man. These people have, if not more or better artillery, they have equal artillery. And based off what's been coming out, the artillery that these other nations have surpassed Babylon the Greats, America. So now it's a level playing field, and we see the Lord cranking this thing up another notch, man. So let's go back to this article and see what happened, in Gaza, because this is all a part of this, war, the heating up, the leading up to the tipping point, of World War III. It says death toll in today's Israeli strike. So like in Israeli attack on Gaza rises, casualties mostly women and children. And you don't see this in the mainstream media, man. It says sources at Gaza hospitals tell Al Jazeera at least 28 people have been killed in today's surge of attacks on the enclave. Among those are 17 women and children. So, this devil is not sparing none. They're not sparing none, man. They're just being themselves. And this is as of 20 minutes ago. Let's see if it's something more. 5 minutes ago. It says recovery efforts underway in Gaza City, Zitoun, after a family of 5 killed in Israeli strike. Video posted on social media verified by Al Jazeera shows rescue crews digging through rubble of a destroyed home with their bare hands in the Gaza City neighborhood. This devil is out for blood. And soon it's going to be on the streets of Babylon the Great, man. You know, we're not exempt. You know, you still have these people out here walking in blindness, not going on, but they don't understand, man. This is the Lord's will. You know, these people think everything is all good. They gearing up for Thanksgiving, the SNAP benefits kick back in, and they gearing up for Thanksgiving. You know, not knowing what's to come, man. Even though we're telling them, you know, but hey, if they don't believe it, you know, that's on them. You know, the Lord said, for what if some did not believe, you know? So let's go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 21. And let's see where we want to go. We're going to drop down to verse 8. You know, and they're speaking on the missiles, man. Because, hey, it's all about the Lord's anger. You know, he said he's going to gather all nations in the valley of Yehoshaphat and judge them, plead with them. And this is a part of it. So this is the book of Psalms, chapter 21, verse 8. It says, thine hand shall find out all thine enemies. Thy right hand shall find out all those that hate thee. And if we go back to the top, it says to the chief musician, a psalm of David, you know, and this is King David, you know, prophesying, man. Prophesying. So it says, thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in thine, thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in thine time of anger. In the time of thine anger, the Lord shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. You know, it says, their fruit shall thou destroy from the earth, and their seed from the children of men. So it's going to be total destruction, man, here in Babylon the Great. You know, these Edomites going to be done for. 2/3 of our people are going to be done for. So, you know, the Lord is just putting it out there, man. It says, for they intended evil against thee. They imagined a mischievous device which they are not able to perform. You know, and we know, you know, that RFID microchip is coming. You know, it's coming, but you know, they won't be able to affect the elect, man. The elect will not take it. The elect will not be moved by Esau's cunning craftiness, you know, to come. So it says, therefore thou shalt make them turn their back, when thou shalt make ready thine arrows upon thy strings against the face of them. So the Lord is going to let all hell break loose, man. You know, through these ICBM missiles, you know, that these nations have. You know, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, all these nations are going to come up against Babylon the Great. It says, be thou exalted, Lord Yahweh, in thine own strength. So will we sing and praise thy power. You know, the elect is going to be praising, man. You know, singing that new song. You know, once everything is destroyed, you know, as the book of Psalms chapter 149 it explains it all. You know, we're going to take vengeance upon our enemies, man. You know, and it's just the first step, man. What's Salakia? Not the first step. The first step is preaching his word, getting his word out that's going throughout the earth right now and changing the atmosphere of what's going on, man. Changing the whole landscape of everything that's taking place right now. You know, if it weren't for this word going out, then we'll still be stuck, man. Blinded. Not knowing what's going on. But, you know, we got the playbook, man, and it's called a Bible. We got the whole playbook from front to back. So let's go to the book of Joel, chapter 2. You know, because this is what's coming, man. You know, these people don't understand. This is what's coming. You know, it says the terrible visitation. The terrible visitation. Future prophecy of the destruction to come, mainly here in Babylon the Great. So this is the book of Joel, chapter 2. It says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion. It says, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. And that's what's going on. You got the men out on the highways and hedges blowing the trumpet, warning the people, the Israelites, the elect first and foremost. Lessons going out on YouTube and other platforms, all around the world. It says, let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. And we see it taking place, man. We see everything gearing up. You got war in Russia, war, Russia and Ukraine. You got Israel, Gaza. And these are major, major players in World War III. These are some major players. Speaking of Israel, Russia, in the U.S., major players, the big three. Then you got China. So, like I say, man, it's getting ready to go down. That's why we telling the elect to repent and come back to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, which they will, they will. But, this word must go out. Verse 2, it says, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall there be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. And why? Because it's going to be total destruction, man. This speaking of the ICBM missiles. ICBM missiles, the vessels of destruction. And it's not going to be any more hereafter. Because the kingdom is going to be set up, man. It won't be going to war anymore. Going to be total peace throughout the earth, man, because it's going to be a righteous rulership. So verse 3, it says, a fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yeah, nothing shall escape them. So, just imagine, just say, for instance, you running, you looking forward and you see everything looking normal, but then you look behind you and everything is aflame. Everything is burned up, man. Everything is burning. So this is, these missiles are going to cause total destruction, man. And you can just picture that like a movie scene. You running, fire behind you, missiles dropping, and you looking forward and everything looking perfect. But, it's not going to be nowhere to run in that day. It's going to be total destruction, man. Verse 4 says, the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so they run, and it's just picture a group of horses running, kicking up dust, man. That's how these missiles are going to be. Smoke coming from behind as they're shot off, we see it. You see them testing missiles. When they test them, man, all you see is a big plume of smoke coming from behind them, man. So just imagine 100 million coming this way, So, Salakia, let's see. Verse 5, it says, like the noise of chariots on the top of mountains, they shall leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. These missiles are coming to inflict harm and damage, from the sound of them to the looks of them. It says, before their faces the people shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness. man, it's gonna be a bad day, you know. So Lord willing, you know, we make it out of this destruction to come, man. It's not gonna be pretty at all. Whole lot of death. Verse 7, it says, they shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. You know, these missiles are gonna, nothing is gonna be able to stop them. You know, we see now that, you know, these missiles that's being boasted about by Russia and China, so they can get past the defense system of the United States. You know, they're undetectable. So it says, they shall run like mighty men, speaking of the missiles. They shall climb the wall like men of war, you know. So nothing is going to be able to stop them, defense system or whatever. It says, and they shall march everyone on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. So they're coming, you know, wherever they shot off, they're going to be in perfect form coming to America, man. Verse 8, it says, neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk everyone in his path. So just imagine, you know, you just watching and you seeing these just a normal amount of missiles, you know, just coming. None of them bumping into each other. None of them throwing each other off course. They're like in perfect line coming towards this place, man. That's what you can envision. It says, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. So they're not going to be stopped. You know, nothing is going to be able to stop them. Verse 9, it says, and they shall run to and fro in the city. What city? Babylon the Great, a.k.a. America. They're going to run to and fro all throughout the city, man. Everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, is going to be missiles. It says, they shall run upon the walls. They shall climb up upon the houses. It's going to be all over the place, everywhere. Nothing going to stop them. It says, they shall enter at the window like a thief, you know, the upper atmosphere, you know, the ozone, the sky, the upper atmosphere, man. You know, they're just going to come down like rain, like falling stars, as it's spoken of in the book of Revelation. Verse 10, it says, the earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. It's going to be a whole lot of smoke, whole lot of darkness coming from those missiles, man. And not to mention the amount of them, you know. So, you know, once they start hitting, it's going to be all kind of smoke, flames, everything, man. All you're going to see is darkness. Darkness. Let's see. Yeah, and that's, you know, that's pretty much it on that. You know, we can go on, but that's pretty much the basis, man. You know, how about Shem Yahushua? It's just gearing up for war, you know, and they got these other nations gearing up for war. And, you know, speaking of America, man, it's over with. It's all the way over with, man. You know, Trump has been set up to be the fall guy, you know, and it's like he's proud of it. You know, they're distracting people with the Epstein files today, which, hey, man, just bring them out. If you're going to bring them out, just bring them out. But, you know, with that being said, you know, Lord willing, this was an edifying lesson. You know, when it comes to give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Kakwadash. Shalom.